Hey, it's Illuminate back with another video. Today's video is going to be about sexual alchemy. I decided to drop this video because we are in the month of November, and I remember, seeing videos in the past about NoFap November and why it's important to hold on to your sexual energy. So this video, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into, sexual alchemy and what it is and why it's important for you, especially as men in modern time, to hold on to your sexual energy. So without further ado, let's get into this video. So we live in a time now, especially for my generation, where sex is overly glorified. You see it in music videos with celebrities. You see it throughout the modeling industry. It's like sex is the only thing that sells. You see it through social media, just when you're getting, going online and scrolling. Sex has become overly perverted. And I feel like the original essence and meaning of it, of how the ancients looked at it and how our ancestors practiced it, is, kind of lost. So we must understand that sexual energy, the seed of our soul, physically manifest as our sexual energy in the man, and then the woman as her ovarian energy. And this sexual energy has been cultivated and practiced throughout time, since the ancient times of the kings and the royal people in Africa, and also throughout India and Asia. They understood the importance of cultivating this energy as being a first principle to spiritual development. So when it comes to cultivation, it's important to hold on to your sexual energy, especially as men, because every time you ejaculate 200 to 500 million sperm cells. So just think about that. Every time you ejaculate, that's 200 to 500 million sperm cells. And your sperm contains a lot of vitamins, a lot of minerals, a lot of things that your body needs. Now, I'm not here to say don't have sex at all, because as I go more into the video, you'll start to understand that sex is actually very important. Remember that your work begins in the below, and you can't go to the above without, mastering the below first. But the ancients didn't look at sex as just something that you just do for pleasure, or something that, you just do for procreation. It was really a balance. Everything in the universe is balanced, and they understood that. So when it came to sex, they looked at sex as something that was to be honored, but not something that you overindulge in, or not the path of extreme celibacy either. The man and the woman biologically are different, spiritually are different, in the way the sexual energy inside of both of those individuals are different. With the men, when we ejaculate, we're actually ejaculating our life force. Like I said, the seed of our soul is manifested physically as sperm. Now for the woman, they are receivers, and they're more of yin. So they absorb the sexual energy, and they kind of transform it within their bodies. The ancient kings, because we are a race of kings as melanated beings and queens, and also throughout India and China, in those areas, had many wives and concubines. So the practice of sexual alchemy was something that was taught in the inner circle, in the inner courts, because they were afraid that if they let the knowledge out to the masses, the power that the masses could attain could corrupt individuals that didn't, that weren't trained or initiated into that knowledge. So the inner circle and inner court practiced it because their whole goal was spiritual transformation, and their whole goal was to reach a higher spiritual level, or a higher spiritual being, through the cultivation of sexual energy. They were scientists, and they were already studying this science for tens of thousands of years. So in those traditions, in those cultures, you'll start to see that the ones that cultivated their sexual energies had powerful empires. They lived for a very long time, and they didn't grow old too fast, and their reign was very powerful. Those kings had a lot of electromagnetic energy, had powerful aura, so their influence was more dominant and their influence spread it more powerfully. Now, the monarchs that were overindulging with their wives and their concubines, losing their sexual energy, they started to lose hair, grow old, lose their vitality and their youthfulness. And their reign wasn't as powerful because they weren't focused on the spiritual traditions that taught them how to ascend spiritually. And they got caught up in their carnal desires and were overindulging. Now I come to say this because we are in a different era, and we are now in the age of Aquarius. And this is the age of knowing. And I feel like this knowledge is really going to help our people, especially, humanity as a whole, because society in the Western world have basically no knowledge of what I'm talking about. And I think this is the time that people need to get hip to this knowledge, study the ancient traditions, and start to put this into practice. If you study the great saints, whether it's Buddha, whether it's Jesus, those people, they all practice sexual alchemy. They understood that the power, of the Kundalini and the power of their sexual energy and the power of cultivating this energy and unlocking their psychic abilities and their creative powers were all dwelling inside of that seed. And it gave them powers of healing. It gave them clairvoyant abilities and different things of that nature. So sexual alchemy is very, very, very important. And whenever you start to, have sex, like I said, I'm not condemning sex, but when you have sex, make sure you are learning to go periods of time without ejaculating and learning how to have sex without ejaculation. That was the ultimate science. And it took time for an individual to learn that and to practice it. You don't necessarily need a girlfriend or a mate. You can do it yourself. Learning how to reach orgasm without ejaculation, which is a difference. The love and the experience that you experience with another individual, a male, when he's not releasing his seed, is heightened. And it's not just based off of mere lust, and you can really connect, because the way the feminine energy works is males, we have to open up to connect to the feminine, and also we have to open up to connect with the feminine in order for us to experience the sex fully. Now, let me make sure I covered everything. Yeah, so another thing, cultivating your sexual energy is nourishing to the spirit, but without proper diet, exercise, meditation, virtuous moral behavior, and love, true cultivation is impossible. So without proper diet, without eating right, without living a moral and ethical principle life, and that's what it truly meant to be a king in those times. I know you see a lot of us, as melanated being especially, saying we're kings and queens and we're prideful about it. And we live a life that's, not morally and ethically balanced, and we don't live a life of alignment. But you need a proper diet. You need to live a moral and ethical life, a virtuous life. And you need to get into exercising in order to move this energy to the higher centers of the brain and the heart area of the body. But yeah, I pretty much covered everything. Learning, the first step is learning how to cultivate this energy. Men, start holding on to your energy. Women, start cultivating your energy. Don't just go off of mere pleasure, because the true purpose of sex was procreation. So understanding that that energy is vital for your spiritual ascent, and it's something that needs to be cultivated and worked on through meditation, proper diet, exercise, and learning how to have orgasms, especially for the males, without ejaculation. Because the women, they don't lose life force like we do. Instead, they absorb energy, and that energy gets cultivated within them. But they don't lose life force that we do. So a woman can basically have sex and not be drained. That's why when you, as a male, ejaculate, you're drained, you're tired. But yeah, guys, remember that true sexual harmony is the middle path. It's not about being overly celibate. It's not about being overly indulgent. And that's why it's important to have sex, how to learn to have sex without ejaculation. And if you mess up, it's okay. Start holding on to your energy again and then try again. But start to, slowly cultivate your energy. This whole thing is about energy cultivation. And you'll be able to unlock things that you didn't think you could before. And you'll be able to tap into your potential way more and unlock things within yourself that you ain't know were there. And I'm talking about psychic abilities, clairvoyant abilities, healing, more clarity of your purpose, more love and happiness, more joy, more vitality, more youthfulness, and you'll be able to keep your hair. Who wants to get old and lose your hair, especially as a male? That's why you see a lot of males are balding nowadays in our society. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of the video. If you guys like the video, please like and subscribe. My name is Illuminate. I'll be dropping more videos after this. I love you guys and keep taking care of yourselves. Peace.